Good evening. It is 7 o'clock. Welcome to those of you who have joined us in person at the municipal building, and welcome to those of you who are joining us virtually. The agenda has been published and there are no changes. Having said that, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I get a motion for the approval of the minutes? Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. Roll call.
Mayor Calabrese,
Present.
Councilman Petrucci,
Present.
Councilman Getzey, Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Deputy Mayor, we can't hear you. I think you're muted.
Yes, I'm present. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Pecora.
Present.
May I get a motion for the approval of the minutes?
Mayor,
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from our council meeting on September 21st of 2020.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes,
Councilman Pecora,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese.
Yes. May I get a motion for the approval of the expenditures?
Mayor,
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the expenditures. However, I don't see them listed. So I'm going to withdraw from making that motion because I don't have it on, and I have my draft. I apologize. I'll let someone else make that motion.
On the published agenda, the expenses are included, but on the draft, they were not because we only got those on the Monday that it was published, so.
Okay, thank you, Manager.
Would you like me to read them? I could read them out if you wanted me to.
Yes, that would be great.
First is one journal voucher in the amount of $3,203,249. There are 7 CD requisitions in the amount of $512,138.50. And it's check numbers 47,685 through 47,908 in the amount of $4,478,073.93 for a total of $8,193,461.43.
Thank you.
So Deputy Mayor, would you then renew your motion?
Yes, I make the motion that we approve our expenditures.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
I just wanted to note, Councilman Getzey appears to be present now. So the record will reflect that. Councilman Getzey on the approval of expenditures.
I'm sorry, excuse me. We do have members here. Maybe I should ask for a comment.
Oh, okay.
Is there any public comment on the expenditures? Any comment from council? Roll call.
Councilman Getzey. I think he's muted.
He's frozen.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes,
Councilman Pecora,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci.
Yes.
Next is public comment for those residents that signed up at least a week in advance to address council on non-agenda items. When I call your name, please approach the podium, and if you could, please give your name and address. And comments, public comment is limited to 3 minutes. Felicia Harvey.
Okay, I want to thank you guys for allowing me to speak. I want to talk about what's going on in this area for me. I've been here for over a year, and I've been consistently harassed by my neighbor. I consistently called the police 19 plus times, and each time I was treated as a suspect, not the victim. Before I moved to Penn Hills, I was never charged in anything. I'm sitting in Penn Hills now with 5 charges, and my partner is charged with 2. My neighbor is harassing me racially, genderly, and because I'm gay. And my thing is, I can live next to the devil and still worship God. And he's been consistent about this. I've called the police, and the police have shown bias to him. I spoke with,
Take your shoes off.
huh? Anyway, so it started off with just, basically a neighborhood dispute. It started as a dispute. We had some issues with the property. I was trying to get that worked out. I reached out to the chief of police when the COVID was on. I really wanted to try to get some resolution there because COVID was on, everything was shut down. And this man was taking that machinery and just doing things on the easement, moving things and just, doing whatever he wanted. I called the police. They said, oh, he can do whatever he wants. My thing is, I just need to be able to live in my house and not be harassed by my neighbor. I need the police to do their job and protect me. There's something wrong with that man. And I keep on telling him that. He doesn't have it all, and I need help. I'm reaching out to you guys to help me. I'm in need of help. I need the council to step in. I need to know what's going on with the easement. Are there different restrictions here in Penn Hills? What is the rules for easement? Because we share an easement, but it's not that way. He's taken over the easement. He's doing whatever he wants to the easement. I talked to the fire chief. No, I talked to the fire marshal today in reference to the easement. I said, is it possible for a fire truck to get to
If you
me?
could please conclude.
Huh?
I'm sorry, if you could please conclude.
Oh, that's it?
It's 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, in conclusion, what I would like the council to do is to look into my situation. I have pictures here of just, I had a lot more to show. Maybe I can just do it again next month. I'll just keep on until something happens, but I need help. I appreciate your time. I just need help.
Ms. Harvey, thank you so much for coming to speak today, but I just do want to remind you that, as you recall, we met last week, you and I, along with the chief of police and the manager. And as I understand it, there's an ongoing investigation. So please know that you've been heard. We absolutely hear.
I just want to make sure I'm being heard. And, I'm not going to stop until, things change. That's right. I'm a citizen, and I deserve to be treated like so. Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Calabrese, can you hear me?
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I just want to say to Ms. Harvey, I thank her so much for coming out this evening to raise the awareness of what's been going on at her property. But I also want to note for the record that I've been in contact with Miss Harvey as well, and I've been to the property on several occasions. And so I just want her to know that we are aware and we do hear her, and we have looked into the matter and we will continue to look in the matter, and I thank her for coming.
Thank you.
Give the resolution to me.
You're all there, honey. You're all there. Where's the resolutions? Number 7.
May I get a motion for under number 7, Resolution A, 2020-50?
That's 7. Open up to 7A.
Yeah.
Okay, here we are.
Mayor, I'll make a motion for resolution 2020-50, approval of the fiscal year 2016 home consortium grant amount of $168,439 authorizing the municipality participation in the Allegheny County Home Consortium Program and approving the executive of cooperation agreement for the administration of the Home Buyer Assistance Program.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Public comment? Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Christopher Barrett. I'm the owner of a company called TOC Management. And we have a property on 723 Southern Avenue. And there's a 50 by 20 foot hole in the middle of the road. I mean, I don't know if it's the right time to be talking about it, but there's a big hole in the road. That's what I came to try to address or see what's going to be done about it. It's right at the end of my driveway and I can't even pull in and out. And I heard that there's nothing going to be done about it.
I'm sorry. Mayor.
Oh, yes, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, sir.
Christopher Barrett.
Christopher, I'm sorry that that's happening. This is actually not the part of the agenda to address that. But what I would suggest is if I could get your contact information, I could call you tomorrow after I talk to our public works director and get a little more information about it. I did know, is this on Old Coal Hollow Road?
It's on Southern Avenue.
Okay, I'm sorry, Southern Avenue. I need to get a little more information about it, and then I could probably fill you in on what's happening with it. If you would be so kind as to, you could simply, if you wanted to, you could leave your name and phone number, either here or you can give it to our IT person that's manning the cameras, and I could get in touch with you after the meeting or tomorrow.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
That's
Oh,
no problem
no
at all.
interruption. Thank you.
Mayor, may I speak to this is Chris, can I speak to the ordinance? I'm sorry, the resolution?
Yes, please.
Yeah, first I just want to tell also Mr. Barrett, like the manager said, if you go into the chat, the IT gentleman will see your message and get your address. But I just want to speak to this resolution and the next resolution. You notice at the top of this is says fiscal year 2016, and the next one says fiscal year 19. And both of these resolutions apply to our home buyer assistance program, which is very successful. And to date, the municipality of Penn Hills, mayor and council have authorized the funding of this program. And to date, we've spent about $250,000 in grant funding, and that's gone towards the purchase of close to $3 million in homes in Penn Hills by low-income families. This is our home buyer assistance program where we offer $14,500 for a down payment and closing costs. So, that's a real feather in Penn Hills cap as far as having this program. And the 2019 program is our money, and that's each year we do this. 2016, another community, and I'm not sure which one, and the money's getting old. It's 5 years old, 2020. So the county took this money from another community and gave it to Penn Hills because they knew we could spend it because of the success of our program. So I just want to point out that this is additional funding, and the reason 2016, it's not our delay, but we're actually benefiting. Penn Hills residents and home buyers are benefiting from the Allegheny County giving us an additional $168,000. So I think that's really important.
I would like to note for the record that the speaker who was just addressing that issue was Mr. Chris Blackwell, the
Yes.
Director of Planning.
Thank you.
So may I get a second, I'm sorry, any further comment from council? Roll call?
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Councilman Pecora,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
I get a motion under 7B for Resolution 2020-51.
Mayor, I'll make a motion for resolution 2020-51 fiscal year 2019 home consortium grant amount of $110,072, authorizing the municipality's participation in the Allegheny County Home Consortium Program and approving the execution of cooperation agreement for the administration of the Home Buyer Assistance Program.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call?
Councilman Pecora,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
May I get I'm sorry.
I'm just
Oh.
thank you for approving. I think it's a good and more important.
Thank you. May I get a motion under 7C for Resolution 2020-52?
Go to C. Go to C, tab C.
Mayor, I'll make the motion for resolution 2020-52, awarding contracts to SE Construction Group LLC in the amount of $738,697 and JP Environmental in the amount of $87,900 for the 2020 Plum Creek Sewage Treatment Facility upgrade.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment? Any comment from council?
Yes, Mayor Calabrese.
Yes, Deputy Mayor Sapp.
I was going to ask either the business manager or Chris if they would just elaborate a little bit in clarity of what this entails.
Absolutely, Deputy Mayor, and I'm going to call on Rick Minsterman for some additional details if they're needed. This is a very big contract, obviously, and its purpose is to upgrade our UV system. You'll remember it was maybe a year or two ago, we had some overflows at the plant because the UV system couldn't handle the flows. And we agreed as part of our agreement with the county health department to make upgrades to the system. So generally speaking, that's what it is. I'm going to defer to Rick to fill in the blanks, if you will, and give a little more detail.
Thank you. Hello, Mayor and Council. It's good to see everyone.
Likewise.
The manager is correct in his assessment. I'll just add a little bit. You had made an agreement to do this work specifically through a consent order with the Allegheny County Health Department. And if you remember, we were getting exceedances last year and the year before at the plant, where what I mean by that is there were certain constituents related to fecal coliform that were higher than allowed to be discharged from the plant. And so we tracked that down to specifically be related to the UV system, the ultraviolet light system that treats and kills bacteria as the water passes through these series and these banks of lights. So what has happened is that the plant was getting, well, two things specifically. The plant was receiving too much flow. So there was too much water passing over the UV lights that they couldn't treat and kill all the bacteria as they were designed to do. So one, and the other is that the UV system is just old and not functioning at its optimum capacity. So the solution here is, number one, to update and improve and upgrade the UV system. So that is the reason for the contract. The $700,000 is to install a new UV system, and there is a tank that goes. There's a crane and a trolley to lift the bank out, and then to take it outside and put it into a tank so that it can be cleaned. So it's a pretty substantial undertaking. The units themselves are hundreds of thousands of dollars, but this now will get you the UV system that is designed for the flow that comes through your plant. The other problem was too much flow was coming through the plant. So that's the second part of that resolution that you are authorizing. The $87,900 is a system of tank valves that open and closed based on the amount of flow coming to the treatment plant. So it protects the treatment plant from taking too much flow into it to overwhelm. Even the new set of UV lights will be overwhelmed if more flow passes through them than what they're designed to do. So you have an equalization tank upstream of the treatment plant. And so now that equalization tank is optimized to be used so that the sewage treatment plant doesn't get too much flow. That excess flow, as it rains, will go into the EQ tank. After the rain stops, then the water comes out of the EQ tank, the equalization tank, and it goes back into the plant where it's treated because the flow rate is back to normal. So that is unfortunately the long story related to that. And but this work will solve that problem. And I'll also mention that there are very specific timeframes on accomplishing certain tasks. And right now we're at the awarding of the project, which is what you're voting on tonight. That is in our schedule. We are on schedule by awarding this tonight. So things are going smoothly. The project itself came in as a great price. We were estimating as much as, just over 900,000 for the UV. So this is a great price, and so strongly recommend we move ahead for lots of reasons. But hopefully that's enough background on that.
Okay, Rick, thank you. That was really good. So I have a couple more questions for you. I remember we talked about this some time ago, and I was under the impression that we already started this project. So from the last conversation that we had with regards to this situation, to date, nothing was done or has been done. Is that correct?
No, actually, when we signed the order back when you are remembering, that was months ago, several things have happened. So we had to design the projects, then we had to submit them to DEP. DEP had them for 6 months. So it takes about 6 months for DEP to review a Part 2 permit. When you make a significant change to a treatment plant, I don't know why, but they spent a lot of time looking at it. It came back approved. And so now, then we were able to prepare the bid documents. It was been advertised for a month, and almost 2 months now since it's been advertised. So yeah, these things take a while, but everything has been on schedule like the order has required. But yeah, what you're seeing is that long approval time from DEP.
Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
Deputy Mayor.
One more question. I'm so sorry. Rick, what is the estimated time of this project, the completion of it?
This is going to take a long time. These UV systems take months just to order, just to have them manufactured and then delivered. So this is over a year to do this, to finish this project.
Okay, and so what are the health risks during this time?
Excuse me. Well, so far, since You referenced the last time we spoke about this and doing something about it. We've had one other exceedance, and I say we, I mean, Water Pollution Control is the one who's really handling this and doing a great job at it. So, you know, as a team, we've had one exceedance since then. It was a very minor, and it's built into the consent order that there's a very small minor penalty to pay for each exceedance. It's in the hundreds of dollars. It's very reasonable, and they're required to do that because we are exceeding. But they know that it's going to happen. The health risk, specifically discharging a very small amount of fecal coliform, and it's dissolved. It's not like there are solids or anything of that nature. It is dissolved, and usually the stream is able to uptake that small amount. It's a very short time frame, and it's a very low dose. So the actual impacts to health, and other than standing right outside of where the sewage, the treated sewage is being discharged, is minimal to none.
Deputy Mayor,
Yes, Councilman.
if you remember, the first time we talked about this was last rainy season when it overflowed the EQ tanks, and that's when we caught this because they couldn't filter it or use the UV light fast enough to get it through, and it ended up in the creek.
Right, okay.
Roll call, please.
Welcome.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Councilman Pecora.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now I get a motion under new business number 7D, resolution 2020-53.
Mayor, I'll make a motion for resolution 2020-53 awarding contract to Alcon Technologies in the amount of $111,060 for Plum Creek Equalization Control Upgrade Project.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment? Any comment from council? Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, everybody. Felix Catlin, 223 Detour Drive. It's been a while. It's nice to see Ms. Sapp and Mr. Blackwell and Councilman Petrucci and Pecora and Getzey. And I just wanted to say it would be great to take walks with you down at the new ALT Greenway sometime, since my dance card is a little open, since Mr. DeLuca probably won't be accompanying me. I do have one clarification. I just want to make sure that this resolution does protect Plum Creek. It has some benefits to protecting Plum Creek, which directly feeds the Allegheny. I did catch that bit of discussion with you two, but I was preparing comments for another section. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that that is the case. This would be an improvement, because last year we did have quite a little disaster there, correct? Can anybody verify that? Mr. Minsterman, can you verify that?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Minsterman.
should I respond?
If you'd like.
Yes. So the answer, Felix, is yes. This will
Thank you.
provide protection to Plum Creek and ultimately to the river, as it will be solving a problem of reducing the fecal coliform exceedances from that plant.
Got it. I just wanted to be totally clear on that, because I do represent a bunch of people who are working very, very hard to improve some of the ecological problems that we're having, especially associated with water flow in the municipality of Penn Hills. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Penn Hills is very aggressive in the amount of EQ tanks and the equalization of overflows that are captured. They are way ahead of most municipalities. Most municipalities have overflows that discharge the overflow directly to the receiving stream. There's no equalization, there's no holding of this contaminated flow and discharging back into the treatment plant. So even without this correction, you're providing more protection to Plum Creek than most.
That is sensational. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Roll call.
Mayor,
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I had a question. I was just waiting until Felix got finished with his comment. So is this in conjunction? How is this in conjunction with 2020-52?
This is, I mentioned, other than the UV, there was a whole series of communications between the valves opening and closing to protect the plant. So as the flow increases, it closes the valve some, the water backs up into the EQ tank. So there's a whole system being installed that now it's all automated. You used to have to send guys down and open valves and close valves and then divert the flow to the EQ tank, wait for it to fill, and then discharge it back. It's all automated now, and that was a requirement of the consent order as well. So that's the second half of our problem, stopping all that excess flow from overwhelming the treatment plant.
Okay, so in resolution 52, that I thought the 89,900 was for that. So I'm looking at this additional in 53 of the $111,060.
The 111 is the actual project. It was a separate bid project for to do the communication of the valving and the pump station and the treatment plant, et cetera. The 87,000 is part of the UV project.
Okay. All right. So really, that 87,900 goes with the $111,060.
No, it goes with the 738, the 738,000.
Okay. In that grand total.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
It's actually your water pollution control acting director just reminded me specifically what that is. What it's related to the EQ tank is the clarifier. There are 3 clarifiers, and one of the clarifiers, what they do is mix the sewage, and there's baffles or paddles on the mixers, and they've deteriorated, and that's the cost to replace those baffles. So it's at the treatment plant, but it is unrelated to managing the flow to the treatment plant. So it's just another element of treatment at the plant.
Okay, but included in that 738,697.
It's in addition to it. So the 738,000 is the UV, and the 78,000 is the clarifier tank repair. And then the 111,000 is that communication system of valving, and it's called SCADA, and it's actually just a whole series of communication between all those entities. That's what that is for. So,
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Thank you, Rick.
Sure thing.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey. Councilman Getzey,
There we go.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Councilman Pecora,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
resolution carries.
May I get a motion under 8A, ordinance 2020-2674?
Oh,
Mayor,
Mayor,
I'll make a motion for ordinance 2020-2674, amending the Penn Hill zoning ordinance, establishing provisions for the regulation of mobile food vendors as a temporary use.
Thank you. May I get a second?
a second.
Thank you. Any comment from the public?
Felix Catlin, 223 Detour Drive. It really is just a question. Since we do not have the ordinance in front of us in any way, We're encouraging food trucks finally in Penn Hills? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, I'm good.
Yes, sir. Please approach the microphone.
He said same question. Yes, same answer.
Christopher Barrett again. So we're approving the food trucks. Is there some type of stipulations or?
No.
Usually food trucks should have like a food vendor's permit to park at a certain location at a certain time.
Right, that's what the ordinance is.
Okay.
Any comment from, any comment from council?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilman.
why don't we have Scott elaborate a little bit on this one so people can get it straight?
Thank you.
No problem, Councilman. And I am going to rely on our planning director to fill in anything that I leave out. But up until this point, my understanding is that Penn Hills really didn't have any program in place at all to regulate in any way food trucks. So in reality, if you wanted to bring a food truck to Penn Hills, I think it was a little bit of a gray area whether you could even do that or not. So our planning director and our planning department spent a lot of time working on this ordinance. And really what the intent of the ordinance is a way to regulate food trucks so that if you bring a food truck to Penn Hills, you have to make sure that you have everything in order. You have to have a food permit. You have to pay a small fee, and it regulates where you can set up. So the whole idea behind the ordinance is to get us to a point where we could begin to allow food trucks. Am I correct, Mr. Blackwell?
Yes, that's correct. And both to Mr. Barrett and Mr. Caitlin, the full agenda and the ordinances are all available on the Penn Hills website. So when, you can look at it later, but also in the future, you can actually download it there and see the whole ordinance. But basically, as the manager said, basically the planning department and code enforcement have received increased interest in food trucks over the years, and they've become very popular. And we've gotten requests from both food vendors, from residents, and from businesses that would like them. And as the manager said, they're not permitted at this time. So the way this ordinance is, basically, if you look at other communities, they have streets with sidewalks, and so the ordinances require them to be on public property, have their generators and things like that on public property. Penn Hills is unique in that we don't have that situation. So with the way this ordinance works, I think it's actually better, because in those communities, a large part of the ordinance is insurance and indemnifying the municipality for any liability because they're on a public street. In this case, what this ordinance would do is it would permit food trucks on private, commercial, industrial, and non-conforming commercial uses. So if wants this use, then the food truck, they have to get a temporary use permit. And this is actually an amendment to our, if you look at section 1019, performance standards for temporary uses, this is actually already in place for things like Christmas trees, corn, flowers, flea markets, things like that. Those are temporary uses. So really all it's add food trucks as a temporary use, which means you're gonna have to come in, get a temporary use permit. You're gonna pay a fee like any other temporary use. It's $100 right now for 30 days. And then you have to have permission of the property owner. So there are properties that come to us many times and ask local businesses that want food vendors at their events, if they're having some special fall event. Or also there's existing drinking establishments, bars that even have a kitchen, but employing a cook or having somebody provide food, that's a whole nother expense that maybe they can't handle, and especially at this time, COVID, but even in the past. So this would allow, really, I think it's a nice opportunity for residents and businesses to bring more opportunities to Penn Hills, where you're going to go to a drinking establishment, dine there where you couldn't before, or you're going to go to an event in Penn Hills and you're going to stay here, you're going to dine in Penn Hills. I think it's a benefit for everybody. And it's something that, there had been in the past some concern about our local, our existing local restaurants. But I think in this case, the ordinance it doesn't allow them, they can't be within 1,000 feet of another business to get permission from local businesses. So I think that it's a win-win for a municipality, and I hope you support it.
Thank you, Chris. And I agree, it's a welcome addition to our community.
Any further comment from council?
Yes, I have a comment. So, Scott, would we be able to have this information put up on our website? Because I think this is amazing, and it would help our vendors if we gave that advertisement to our residents and letting them know that we are welcoming food trucks, and it will also get the information out to vendors to let them know that Penn Hills is finally welcoming them into our municipality. So I think that's great. Chris, you said it's $100 for 30 days, and once they have that permit, they can sit up anywhere as long as it's 1,000 feet from another business. Is that correct?
Well, and when you say anywhere, I mean, they're going to come in and get a permit, a temporary use permit, and then have permission to be at that site, at that property. Right. So they'll be, it's not just anywhere, it's going to be at that site. It's a temporary
site for 30 days.
To operate within Penn Hills, and they have to have permission from the property owner. So it may be too that say they're going to be at 2 different locations, we need to have the permission from both those property owners. And then you can imagine a situation where this is not going to happen in the Penn Hill Shopping Center. Like, there's no way the owners of the Penn Hill Shopping Center are going to allow a food truck in, unless they have some special event. Sometimes they have that event with the fire trucks and everything there. Maybe they would want that, but I don't think so. So I think it's really a good idea where it has regulations to regulate food trucks, but also the placement is really, I can think of a few cases where they would be really a nice asset.
Okay, and then could we also maybe do something like send an invitation to vendors where we, have a day where we welcome the food trucks to come to Penn Hills, just so everyone knows that, food trucks are here now and vendors are welcome and residents are happy to support them. So could we, I guess that would be a question.
I actually thought I might get some pushback where people wouldn't actually want it. So I'm pleased to hear that you want food trucks. I think that if the food truck folks aren't watching, it's going to come out fast that they're available. And even for myself, I know I drive through other communities on the way home to Penn Hills, and I see the food trucks right at our border. And I'm looking forward to having them here. And I think I don't know that it's necessary to actually advertise that they're there, but I think the word will spread quickly.
Okay, I just know in another municipality, they have a food truck day where they have, maybe 8 different food trucks come in and, service their community. So I was thinking on those lines, and I guess I'll talk with the mayor and the rest of council about that. But thank you so much for being on it. And Scott, would you be able to have Jesse post that on our website?
Yeah, absolutely, Deputy Mayor. The ordinance itself is on the website, but what I'm thinking, because this is a rather popular item, we could probably have in our menu some information specific about if I'm a food truck vendor, what's the process? I'm sure we could put something on our website along those lines. Something user friendly rather than just, the ordinance.
Right, exactly.
That's good. I would like to also point out, in case I thought you might ask, is that the Public Works Director, John Scaglione, he often has events in the park, and he at one time had opened them up to local, like, Boy Scouts and Girl Scout troops and people to try to have food, and they just couldn't keep up with the demand. And you'll see in here that it doesn't mention the parks. But I don't want to confuse people where they think, oh, I can have a food truck in the park. I don't want a food truck sitting in the park. So in a way, the municipality is on its own. Like, he's had food trucks in the past, and he will continue to do that. And I don't think it's necessary in the ordinance.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much.
I would like to see perhaps even go a little further than that, because food trucks are very popular and we are, as you say, a unique community. I would love to see us extend that beyond 30 days. That $100 isn't going to make or break our budget, but it will be attractive, I think, to the vendors. So when we look at fees in January or whenever, I would hope that we could extend it longer. Maybe it would be a permit for 6 months or a year or whatever. Just, pardon the pun, but some food for thought. I'd like to expend that.
Or lower the price down to $50 for 30 days. I mean, yeah, I agree with you what you're saying, Mayor. You got to make it more attractive for the food vendors.
Right,
So,
exactly.
yeah, you got to make it more attractive. $100 for 30 days is a little iffy.
Roll call.
Thank you.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Very excited to say yes.
Councilman Pecora,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Absolutely, yes.
Councilman Petrucci.
Yes, sir.
Ordinance adopted.
May I get a motion for ordinance 8B 2020-2675?
Mayor, I'll make that motion to approve ordinance number 2020-2675, amending the Penn Hill zoning ordinance, establishing provisions for bed and breakfast homes and short-term rental homes.
May I get a second?
Second.
Any comment from the public?
Thank you for hearing me. My
Good
name is
evening.
Mr. Maxim. Can you hear me good?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I live in Frankstown Estates. We've been there for 70 years, since 1950. All 8 of us born and raised there, went to school here every day. Now, we have a problem here. This is going to go, I'll go through your ordinance. But the first problem is 109 Banyan Drive, which you're well aware of, and I know Mr. Black, Chris is. This woman, I don't know her from Adam. She could be the nicest woman in the world. But over this whole past summer and last year, she's had these crazy parties, or Airbnb, whatever you call them. And they got so far out of hand that the police had to be called 911 at least 30 times. They had to come and break these parties up. The neighborhood, she had total disrespect for the neighborhood, total disrespect for her neighbors. Now we're sitting here, peaceful neighborhood, quiet as can be. We never had this before. And this last time, there was probably about 100 people there, parked everywhere, up and down the streets, double, triple parked, out of the cars, dropping their whiskey bottles, throwing their garbage on the street, urinating in the yards. Finally, the police came that one night, and I commend them. They handled the situation very nicely, broke it up. It took them a while to disperse all that amount of people. But the problem is here, now I understand this woman wants to get a permit for a bed and breakfast. There's no reason for a bed and breakfast in Frankstown Estates. You got a hotel a mile and a half down the street, beautiful hotel with all the amenities, weightlifting, jacuzzis, breakfast, anything you want down there. Why would we need a bed and breakfast in Frankstown Estates when it's that close? We don't want it. I'm representing a lot of neighbors, and they don't want this. As a matter of fact, a lot of neighbors went out and bought guns that never thought they'd own a gun because of all the chaos that's been going on because of what this lady has been doing in 109. Now, you can verify that with Chris. You can verify with the police. Your chief of police, Howard Burton, he can get all the copies and the tapes from 9/11. We do not want bed and breakfast in Frankstown Estates. There's no need for it. Why? You got that nice hotel. I'm just repeating myself. But there's no need for it. Now, this ordinance you have in here, it just contradicts itself. You're going here, bed and breakfast, excuse me, 1 to 3 bedroom guests, 30 days. And I'm just going to go through this quick. Then you have here short-term rentals, same thing, 30 days. Now, when these people rent these houses, you have four people in a short-term rental. When they rent the house, are they able to go use their facilities?
Please conclude.
Okay, well, I'd like you to take in consideration what I told you, how severe this is. Check with the police on it, and I know there's a lot of neighbors that are going to want to comment on this now. But please look into, that's how bad it is. People got to buy guns. Come on.
You know, I would like to have either the manager or Mr. Blackwell address it in depth, but as I understand it, you know, the purpose is to regulate this so that that sort of activity cannot happen. Right now, we don't have enough teeth. You know, right now, we're depending on a noise ordinance or perhaps parking. But as I understand it, and again, I'll defer to Mr. Blackwell, I think the ordinance gives more teeth to regulate.
Okay, now one more thing in that, when you say parking, if you go to that one section, you want a parking space for every person. So if you have 3 people in here for parking, how many homes can park four vehicles plus their own, the resident that lives there? Who has that many? Plus you got to put fences and shrubs around it so your other neighbors don't see this. And then if you go further down, it says you can have in a bed and breakfast 10 people in 3 bedrooms. How do you put 10 people in 3 bedrooms? And then you're going to have vehicles for the amount of rooms you rent? You got to look in for this a little bit. And one more thing, you could put in here just to protect the municipality and the residents, which I see nothing like this in there. You could ask your solicitor. If you put in this to protect the municipality and the residents, the municipality would have the right to grant or deny or revoke any permit for any violation and for any other reason it deems fit to do so at any time. You should put some language in that to protect yourself and us.
Thank you,
You
sir.
could revoke someone's permit if they don't follow the guidelines.
So I would like to ask either the solicitor or Mr. Blackwell to address it, but as I understand it, I mean, I think that's the purpose so that we don't have, so we have proper regulation and not people abusing it.
Right, but this is kind of like, okay, at one end to the other, it contradicts each other. It just needs to be looked at, and some language should be in there to protect the municipality and protect the residents. You can revoke a permit if someone's doing what this woman has done.
Thank you. Would either of you like to address that?
I'll just say briefly before Chris can give an overview of the ordinance that I believe that the municipality has taken action with regard to the property owner that was utilizing her property as an Airbnb when there wasn't any regulation for Airbnbs. And that if the house that I'm thinking about is the same house, it's the only house which I've heard somebody using as an Airbnb. It's in fact you can have a seat, sir.
Yes, you're
Go
correct.
ahead, you can have a seat.
You're correct on that.
Okay, and we're moving forward with a litigation, and the mayor is absolutely right. The whole purpose of putting in an Airbnb ordinance is to provide the municipality with the ability to regulate it and to impose penalties. I'll allow Chris to go over the ordinance if you want the whole ordinance to be.
And my name is Deborah Whitaker. I'd like to speak to that because I own 109 Virginia Drive.
The mayor's running the meeting.
Sure, one moment, please. Jesse, I don't know if you have the ability to mute, but right now we have another person who wants to have public comment. We're still in the public comment phase. So, you know, technically this part of the meeting is for public comment. And I simply asked for a comment at some point from the solicitor or the manager or Mr. Blackwell. But at this point, we have another resident who would like to make a public comment.
Thank you, Mayor. All that's understood. No offense to council, but there are a couple people who probably do want to comment on that. I live in the same neighborhood as Mr. Maxim. We don't always agree on a lot, but I will confirm his reports, mostly. I live much farther away from the offending property, and it was impacting a lot. The fact that this was a pool rental is not to be lost on people. I mean, there are still a few in-ground pools on residential properties in Penn Hills. As far as we know, the owner doesn't really even live there. She does own it. I looked on the county website. Her name is Deborah Whitaker, I believe. But we've never met her even. So we felt we were duped. It got quite out of hand. And I do know that a lot of my neighbors were more upset than I was. I think a lot of people know me, and I just thought I would sit this one out. But I do have questions because some of these scenarios need to be looked at. I mean, you know, if your husband just leaves you and you need income, is this okay? The licensure from Airbnb, which is a private organization, I believe, housed in San Francisco, how do they interact with the municipality? And I don't know if you know, but Airbnb itself is not even renting during the holiday weekend anywhere in the United States, based on so many issues that they had with people glomming on to rentals and having house parties, people just showing up. And even, especially in the COVID era, this is even more dangerous to the populace. So I just want to bring these things to the attention of the writers of the ordinance, and we do really need some clarification. I would say also, I love Penn Hills, and I don't like to say it's a bedroom community and that's all. However, it's not really La Turista. So, you know, maybe one of the only nice places to go that you might want to get a Airbnb for a little cheaper than a hotel would be the Penn Hebron Garden Club. Thank you.
Hello again, Christopher Barrett.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Christopher Barrett, 106 Harvest Drive.
Thank you.
I like the idea of the bed and breakfast. If you could tweak it and have it where everybody's satisfied and on the same level, it's a good thing. It provides more income for some of the homeowners, and I'm for it.
Thank you.
Just letting y'all know, not everybody's against it.
Thank you.
I would like to make one comment because just to address what the mayor had asked for some input from the planning director and myself, but the mayor is correct in her summary of it. The offending property, shall we say, where there were problems, those incidents were happening without any ordinance at all to regulate it. And that's, I think, what gave us some difficulty. We had to treat it as a code matter. So, you know, the ordinance we have, it's not a rejection or an endorsement of the rentals. It's just a way of regulating them. To participate and to use your property that way, you have to go to the zoning hearing board. So this isn't much like the last ordinance that we looked at, we just did. This is our attempt to try to regulate activity that might already be happening. And so it may be imperfect, but this is our attempt to do that. So I just wanted to point out that the property that you're talking about, that was happening even without an ordinance. And I don't know whether that would be allowed anyway under this ordinance. That's the whole goal, is to try to get our arms around some of the problems that we've seen with it.
So we are still in the public comment phase, and I do believe there was someone on virtually who wanted to make a comment.
Yes, there is.
Will you please state your name and address?
My name is Deborah Whitaker, and I live at 109 Banyan Drive, the address that everyone's been talking about. I just like to state my part of all of this. First of all, I want to apologize for any inconvenience, any problems and issues it's caused my neighbor, any of my neighbors. It definitely wasn't intentional. And trust me, when I learned of the mass invites that were put out on social media, I was just as upset as my neighbors were, and I shut everything down immediately. But I do have a statement that I want to read. And I started this Airbnb. I called Chris and talked to him because I definitely wanted to do it the right way. This was my first time that I've ever did anything like this. I certainly learned a lot. But I wanted to tell you that, it wasn't my intent when some of the renters went out and ignored my contracts and ignored my rules about inviting. They did a mass invite out on social media. And when I learned of it, I went out and shut the party down like right away. There was no police there. I went up there by myself and I shut it down. Now I do live, this is my home. So of course, I was very, very upset because I didn't want all of those people in my home. My rules and my contract stated no more than 25 people were allowed on the property. Now, if I'm able to, if I ever were to do it again, of course, I would monitor a lot better. I would put cameras in place. I would definitely make sure that they're following my rules and regulations. But again, this was not something that I wanted to happen. This happened one time. Like I said, I shut it down the first time. There were no police there. The second time, I learned that a person put a mass invite out on social media. I shut it down before the party even happened. 3 days before the party, I canceled it and sent back her money. The third time this happened, people ensured that they would only have 20. When I learned that there were all these people there, by this time, the police were at my home. I immediately went up and shut everything down, told everyone that they had to leave. And I also immediately, that was the first time that I learned that my neighbors were even complaining. And I was doing this for at least a month and a half before I had even learned that there were complaints. I had went over to my neighbor across the street and I said, is there, have you noticed anything off the wall? Is there any complaints? And he said, no, everything seems to be fine. So I don't know what my other neighbors were saying. Again, I do apologize for that. That's the last thing I want to do, is to make you feel uncomfortable in your home, because I don't want to feel uncomfortable in my home. So I definitely don't want to do that for you. My rules, again, stated no more than 25 people. Okay. So I just wanted to say, I don't want to, hinder no one else for, this ordinance from being passed and hindering anyone else from doing this. It was my first attempt. And I apologize for any inconvenience for my neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further public comment? Any comment from council?
I have a comment.
I have a
I have
comment.
several. Which one?
I'm
Okay.
sorry, you're breaking up. Could you start over?
I have a comment, or several comments. First of all, who initiated this amendment? Who was behind this? Why are we looking at this?
I believe the planning commission recommended it.
Planning Commission rec.
Can I think I could clear up some of the questions. I don't know if you want to finish and then I'll answer, or if you want me to speak first about the ordinance.
I would just like to know how it got initiated and why we're looking at this.
I'm gonna tell you. Is that okay, Mayor? How would you like to handle this?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Basically, again, the plan, like the food truck ordinance, the planning department, Department of Code Enforcement have received increased inquiries from residents about offering short-term rental. Everybody uses the term Airbnb. That's a particular online company, but these are short-term rentals, short-term stay, and bed and breakfast. So currently in Penn Hills, we don't allow the short-term stay. There has been one bed and breakfast in Penn Hills approved many years ago. They went to the zoning hearing board. There's been no issues, no problems. I'm also aware that if you were to go on the short-term rental sites, there's probably 20, 25 short-term rentals working today, open today in Penn Hills that you never hear any complaints. There's no problems. There's no issues because they're operating the way they should be, the way many of these short-term rentals operate. So they go within the guidelines of these are in people's homes. So if they're renting a room, they want to regulate how their home is utilized. I think that Airbnbs and bed and breakfast, and short-term rentals, I think they're needed in Penn Hills. I think that if you think about something like the Airbnb that's operating already, it's beautiful. They have nice facilities there. And then out on Indiana Road, the conference center out there, they've been operating for many years, and they also have overnight stay. So I think it's an important thing. It would be a good business for people to have, and I think it's appropriate in Penn Hills. I think that to answer Mr. Getsy's question, the planning department initiated this after years of we've been working on this ordinance actually for many years. I believe even since as early as 2012, 2014, as these became more popular. So the planning department, the planning director, myself, I initiated this ordinance. And like I said, they're already operating in Penn Hills and many other parts of the country today. And then you'll also see a bed and breakfast. I think Mr. Maxim, I sympathize with the neighbors on Banyan Drive, and I sympathize with the issues they had. And I want to point out that that is not what we're approving here. And I don't even consider, people are saying they don't want Airbnbs because of that. I don't consider that an Airbnb. As Mr. Caitlin and Mrs. Whitaker said, she offered rental of her pool for up to 25 people. That's a pop-up party. That's something else. And I don't want to get into an argument between neighbors, and I don't want to talk about Mrs. Whitaker's comments about how often she had parties. But on the Airbnb website, her unit was $700 a night. $700 a night tells me somebody goes on there. When you're on there, there's different fields, and you look at it, and you can say a room for 2 people. Some say no children. There's very, very different requirements, for each different place. So when I see, and this is just my observation, is that when I see a single-family home in Penn Hills rented for $700 a night for a pool with up to 25 people, that's code for party house. Somebody's renting that place for $700, collecting $20 off each person, and they're paying for the rental. That's I don't know that for sure. That's what I would say. That is not what this is. That is not what this ordinance is. And then as far as that's for the short-term rental. As far as the bed and breakfast, there are other properties. This is generally, as Mr. Maxim said, it had up to 10 people. These are larger homes. There's some larger homes, very nice homes in Penn Hills that could be satisfied with this ordinance. And if you look at it, it says that somebody's on the premises at all times. This is something for weddings, family gatherings, parties, more of a a place to have that kind of thing. And there are homes that are of that scale. And like I said, we have maybe 1 or 2 already that operate in Penn Hills with no issues and no complaints. And my understanding for myself, again, to answer Mr. Getsy's question, we're writing this ordinance. I frequently get questions and requests from people of can they operate an Airbnb or a bed and breakfast, and how do we regulate that, or how are we gonna do that? And then you'll notice also that this ordinance makes them a special exception. Special exception go to the zoning hearing board. So that means in order to be approved for short-term rental or a bed and breakfast, you'd have to go before the zoning hearing board and get approval. I think that's important. That's the opportunity for the neighbors. This isn't just across the board they're allowed. This is something that you have to go to the zoning hearing board. You have to receive approval for. For the bed and breakfast, you saw the parking. There's going to be a site plan. It's approved by the plant, recommended by the zoning hearing board, approved by the planning department. We would go out and inspect it. Those kind of things are in place. So I think it's important to note that these are this would be something that you'd have to get zoning hearing board approval for. And I think I've answered your question so far.
You have answered my question, but you haven't changed my mind. I think this is a recipe for disaster for the community.
Well, I just want you to know that, like I said, there's probably 20 or more operating in Penn Hills already, with no complaints and no issues. And I don't want to think that the 109 Banyan property that I don't even call I wouldn't even call it, wouldn't even be allowed in this ordinance, and it's not a part of it and wouldn't be covered. I think it's a totally different business. That's somebody saying, I'm going to have parties at my house. That's not what this is. So I think it's unfortunate actually that really property, and there was one other in Penn Hills that since stopped and they rent the home as it's a annual rental. It's a normal rental. They don't do it anymore. But I think it's unfortunate that one person could affect the whole community and how they operate with these short-term rentals. Like it was said earlier, this provides some rental income, some alternative income for some people that, I happen to live in a home where my children are gone. Many people are like that. And I have rooms. I don't rent them. I don't intend to, but I just think it's an opportunity for some people.
Mr. Blackwell, I don't mean to interrupt you, and I may, if the solicitor wants to correct me, please do so, but this may be a point of order. As I listen to this, it sounds to me like the ordinance would actually be a solution to the problem that happened because 25 people would be in violation of this ordinance. Having said that, I think this is a very hot topic. So I guess, so my point of order is at this time, I would like to make a motion to table this and then give the residents, particularly of your neighborhood, sir, or anybody who wants to come forward. So I'm going to, at this point, I'll make a motion, ask for a second, then whatever council decides. But philosophically, I agree with this ordinance. It sounds like it is the solution to the problem, but I don't think we've given the residents sufficient opportunity to be heard. So unless I am out of order, I would like to make a motion at this time to table this. May I get a second?
Mayor Calabrese.
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Before we take that motion, I didn't get to make my comment. So I just want to say, I wanted to thank Ms. Deborah Whitaker for coming to or speaking on her behalf because all of us weren't aware of the situation. And I do want to say that I am familiar with 3 of the bed and breakfast in Penn Hills, and I would commend them. I have used them. We've had out-of-town guests come for our church conventions that were looking for places to stay, necessarily didn't want to stay in a hotel, wanted to stay closer to our church. And, we definitely appreciate the bed and breakfast. And so, just because one or a couple of incidents happened at this particular address doesn't mean or make all of them bad, because we have the 3 that I'm speaking of. They are beautiful bed and breakfast. I know the owners personally, and they are definitely an asset to our community, for sure.
And I have some additional comments that
Thank you, Mayor.
that I would like to make. Chris, I understand your opinion and respect it, but I see this as the beginning of deterioration of neighborhoods, because these neighborhoods were not set up for multi-family purposes. They were not set up for business. They were set up as individual family homes. And to change them, you say, well, the ones that are nice. As this catches on, I see transient populations. I see parking problems. I see neighborhood issues. It doesn't happen all at one night. It's a property by property thing. And I see stable people moving out. And why do we need these? Now, I could go on this line for a while, but for the sake of time, I'll just say this. We have properties in Penn Hills being torn down. We can't tear them down fast enough. So let's do this. Let's give some of these entrepreneurs a property somewhere where it's not impacting on a particular neighborhood. It's not in close proximity, and tell them, you have this house, you can rehabilitate it, and we'll let you run a bed and breakfast there. But to put this kind of use into a neighborhood, I think is just wrong. Now you say, well, we know there are some, there are some, and they probably start out. But when I read through this, this is unenforceable. We can't enforce a noise ordinance. We can't enforce a trash dumping. We can't enforce these things. this is going to be people moving in and out, people moving around, people bringing cars. I definitely think this is a bad idea. And that's how I'm going to vote.
I'd like to make a comment real quick, okay? This ordinance needs something put on the bottom of it, even if we would go forward with it. And Chris, I don't know, the mayor says it has some bite to it, which it probably does, but not enough. And if this would go forward, you have to put something where it says, if you're found in violation of section 12.5D, A through H, all privileges of this bed and breakfast will be dismissed. Okay, something to that nature. If it would go forward.
If I could speak to that, it's not in this ordinance, it's not in other ordinances, because it's already understood. Right now, if you violate, you have to get an occupancy permit, annual occupancy permit to have this. And like any other home business, if you violate the ordinance, your occupancy permit is revoked. And I just want to point out that we shut down the one on 109 Banyan. So we did shut that down. There was also one on Rosedale Street. We shut that down because they were operating inappropriately. But I just want to point out that it could be added, Councilman.
Yeah, I would definitely add it.
But it's actually something that if you're in violation of this ordinance, if you violate the ordinance, we can revoke your occupancy permit that's already in place in the municipal zoning code.
But it shouldn't be implied. It's not implied in Title 18 or Title 75 that the police use, and it shouldn't be applied in what we're doing with code. It should be spelled out so that when they get the agreement, they read it and say, if you're in violation of it, this shall be done to you.
And if I may add, you are creating an oversight role for the community, which is going to add additional administrative burden. It's going to require inspections. There's enough business going on in a community now, which I think is short-staffed in many departments, to take on this kind of administrative responsibility enforcement. It's just going to generate a lot of issues. And you say, well, we don't have issues now. No, issues don't all show up at one time. They develop, and I see this as the seed for development.
I agree.
I think that each of you make very, very good points. And that's why I would love to have this discussion with the public. So, and I hope you will remember those points so that if we do, if the motion that I'm about to make passes, then we could invite and have a full-blown discussion. Having said that, I would like to make a motion to table this, and then we can. Thank you, Councilman Petrucci. Roll call.
On the motion to table, Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Councilman Pecora,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey.
Yes.
Okay, 8B is tabled.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I get a motion on 9A?
I'll make a motion at 9A, approve change order number 2 in the amount of $45,000 for phase 11, 12 sanitary sewer repairs.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment? Any comment from council? Roll call.
Councilman Pecora,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carried.
May I get a motion on 9B?
I'll make a motion for 9B, approve change order deduct in the amount of $70,127.50 with Moranti Contracting for a new contract price of $71,547.50.
Thank you. May I get a second? May I get a second tonight?
Yes, second, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Pecora. Any comment from the public? Any comment from council?
Mayor
Mayor,
Calvary,
Mayor, can we have Scott explain why it was increased?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, one moment. Thank you, manager, please
Sure.
respond.
This is actually a decrease in the price of about $70,000. The reason for the the deduct is the fact that our Public Works Department was able to do some of the asphalt restoration. So that cut out about $7,800 in the contract. And then Moranti originally on Cypress Hill Drive was supposed to be doing that work, and we found another contractor to do it at a saving. So this item is actually a deduct. We're actually saving a little money here on that, and that's the reason, because our Public Works Department did some of the asphalt work, and we found another contractor, not Moranti, to do it. And if Rick, if you wanted to elaborate, if you have any additional details.
No, that's about it. In addition to what the Public Works did, there were two projects, Cedarwood and Cypress Hill. Cypress Hill was removed, and we found a much cheaper price from a different contractor. And so we're just cleaning up the paperwork and revising this contract. This contract used to be for $141,600 something. Now it's going to be for a total amount of $70,127.
and Rick, is that with the same work being done?
No, there were two sites. Now we're only doing one. So that's why it's about half. But the other site, the 71,000 that we're reducing, in addition to the 7,800 that Public Works saved, that we found a contractor to do that work much cheaper.
But only with half of the work being done. And Public Works did do some of it, but
Well,
not the project.
yeah, so the first project, Cedarwood, was 70,000. So that's why we're reducing the 71,000 to take that money out of that contract, so that it'll reflect the actual amount. But you're right, if we did both of those projects, it would be 141,000. So we cut the 71,000 out because we took the other project away from Moranti.
What about Cypress Hills? Is it going to get done?
Yes, it is done, actually. The other contractor already did the work, and it was made part of the water pollution control project, the sewer line repair contract. So it was included in that contract.
Oh, okay, that was good. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Any further comment from council? Roll call?
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Councilman Pecora.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Any items for consideration?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilman.
I'd like to have a minute of your time and give you an item of consideration again. I would like to revisit the topic that I spoke of at the last meeting with in regards to adding the additional 2 council members and the election of all council members by wards or districts. By doing this, this would give us 7 districts with representation in each. I have pitched this idea on social media, local organizations, neighbors, and residents of the community with good, positive response. I've spoken to both Deputy Mayor Sapp and Councilman Getzey, who both agree that this was a good idea and will benefit the community. So now, with all this positivity towards this idea, let's proceed into phase 1, which would be get out to the voters at the May primary so they can vote on the addition of 2 council members and the election of each council member per ward or district. Only after it is confirmed by the voters would we proceed into phase 2. And this is spelled out by Title 53, Chapter 29, establishment of wards or districts that each council member will be elected from. We must move on the ordinance now to get it to the May primary ballot. I would hope that all of you would support this idea and work together on this for the betterment of the community. If for some reason that you do not, please address it now, as Title 53, Chapter 29 clearly states that this may be done by ordinance or by petition containing the proposal for the referendum of the question amending the Home Rule Charter or optional plan of government signed by electors, comprising 10% of the number of electors voting for the office of governor in the last gubernatorial general election in the municipality. If we cannot come together on this as a united council, then Councilman Getzey and myself will proceed to the second option with the help of local organizations, neighbors, and residents to get the signatures needed of the electors on the petition to support this idea to get it on a May ballot. So the voters of this municipality, Democrat, Republican, or Independent, can make the decision on whether they want this idea for their community. Thank you, and that's all I have tonight.
I have a comment.
Yes, Councilman Getzey.
I strongly support what Councilman Petrucci said. I think it's time that we have more people representing our population, more people speaking. We have a large community, and I think it's underrepresented with 5 people. So I strongly support it. I'll just say that Councilman Petrucci presented it very well, and what he said is totally in agreement with.
Mayor,
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to address Mayor, Council, and the public. I'd like to say that a couple of years ago, this was originally my idea, but not to this extent. So we were at an ALOM conference, Mayor and Council under the old administration, and we talked with some other municipal leaders. And as we were talking, we opened dialogue just about how different neighborhoods in one municipality is represented, because as you know, and our residents are aware, communication can be a problem. You know, not all residents are informed of what's going on in the municipality for one reason or another. We let that idea lie dormant, and now Councilman Petrucci has picked it back up, and he's added some additional things. And what it originally was supposed to be was that council members would concentrate on certain areas, on all areas of our municipality, where they would have contact persons, so that someone would always be readily available to them with regards to any issues that they were having or concerns that they had within the municipality. So that's how it originated. Councilman Petrucci has taken it just a little bit further, but I believe before we even move forward, it's so much involved. It's very detailed. I think that I would like to request that we have special meetings with regards to this. And there's a lot of preliminary work that needs to go into this prior to it even probably moving to the ballot. I don't know that we can do it that fast, but I would like to request that Mayor and Council have a special executive session just to open up the dialogue and get a clear understanding, since it went from my original idea to even going just a little bit more in depth of how he wants to change it. So I do think that it's a good idea, but I think that it needs, dialogue needs to be open. We need to sit down together and just really address some of the issues that it entails. Thank you.
I'd like to respond to that. I think it's okay to do that, but I want to say that I think we have the momentum, and we're going to keep working to implement this as quickly as possible. So we're not going to let it die this time like it did in the past. I think it's an important issue, and we're going to continue working as John laid out, even if we have these advisory meetings. Thank you.
And that's all well and good, but I'd just like to say, Councilman Getzey, that there's a lot that it does entail. You know, with it being my original idea, I didn't know myself how much it entailed to make these changes. So that is why I kind of laid dormant. And I think, again, that before we jump the gun, we should maybe even look at some, you know, how the other municipalities did it, why they did it. There are going to be questions that our residents are going to have, and we need to have the answers are ready for them when they ask these questions. So it's a great idea, but we definitely need to do our legwork before we just
And
jump.
if we go to a residence vote that, we'll answer the question.
Thank you.
I think that, I understand where you're coming from, Gath, but in this first phase of it, only thing we have to do is put it towards the voters and let them make the decision whether they want it. It was established way back when we had commissioners. There was 7 commissioners in this town at one time. So it kind of, all the responses that I'm getting from a lot of people are, yes, it would probably mimic the same as the 7 commissioners. I don't believe the 7 commissioners were designated. I think they all ran at large. I'm not sure, but I'd have to check on that. But they were all in favor of, they like that 7 commissioner idea. So it would be entirely up to them whether they wanted to go. Once we get their opinion on it, and by them voting, then you would go into your phase 2 where you'd sit down and have these meetings and figure out how you draw the boundary lines and what's all entailed in doing it. So
Right, and that's just my concern, and that's why I believe that we should involve our residents first and make them just aware. We should have some type of communication prior to moving forward, because a lot of people are not going to understand mapping. There are a lot of issues that are going to arise with regards to doing this, and it's only responsible for mayor and council to do our homework, to do the preliminary work, so that we are ready to address these questions that are going to arise. Because when you talk about redistricting and mapping, I mean, we had to do that with Congressman Doyle and Congressman Lamb. It was a major issue, and they are on a much higher level of government than we are. So I just think that mayor and council needs to be responsible, and we need to sit down and do preliminary work prior to just jumping into it, because this is just not as easy as it sounds. It's a good idea. I don't totally agree with it 100% in the form that it's presented, but that's why we need to sit down together and talk about it and be ready to give this information to our residents, because it can be taken as redlining, and that's something that we want to move away from in Penn Hills. Even though I know our idea is good and we have good intent, but with the issues that are going to arise with it, we need to be on one accord, and we need to be ready to face our residents and give them a good explanation of why we want to do this, and not make them feel that we are going to segregate Penn Hills. Penn Hills has come a long way. It's a great municipality, and we definitely just want to make sure that we don't run into those snags. So thank you very much.
I agree 100% with the deputy mayor. I think we need to hear from the residents. I am not at all clear what the rush is. When the form of government was changed, when we went to a home rule charter, my understanding, it took a commission, it took a long time. I don't think anybody wants this to smack of segregation. And I think that, excuse me, and I think that, I think that it's contradictory to say that we want to do this to properly represent the residents, and yet we don't want to hear from the very residents that we represent. So I think it would be a good idea to have the special meeting. And in the meantime, shame on us if we cannot properly represent everyone in Penn Hills. One of the considerations, I think, has to be that if you start to break things down into wards, the question, or districts, I should say, who draws the lines, and then what occurs from there? Are we then pitting council person against council person for funds? I think there are a lot of issues, and I agree that we should have a public meeting before we rush into this. And I'm a little disheartened to hear that if we don't rush this will just get pushed through anyway. I really wish we would behave as a representative governing body, and let's hear from the people.
well, then why don't you have a town hall meeting to discuss it, and we'll bring the the residents in. Have a town hall meeting, have an executive meeting before that, or a public meeting, or whatever you want to call it, and have a meeting and bring everybody in. Pick a date right now. I have a calendar open now.
Yes, we'll pick a date. We'll pick a date. We don't need to do that right now, though. But we can absolutely do that. Any further items for consideration? Any further items for consideration?
I have an item for consideration. Sometime back, Manager Andrzejczyk and I had a little difference of opinion over right to know. And to get to the point, it resulted in my asking for a solicitor's opinion on whether I could look at a letter that came in before it was processed. And I asked for the solicitor's opinion on this. Subsequent to that, manager called me and said, this could cost the municipality some money. And I withdrew the request. For what, that was part of it, but I had other reasons too. But I withdrew the request. But I found out subsequently that the idea, what I was told was this, we would have to pay the solicitor to process my request for a determination as to the issue. Now, if anybody on council says, I'd like a solicitor's opinion on this, is it contained in his agreement that he's going to get extra pay for processing a request by a council person? I would like to see the agreement. Or was that just pulled out of the air? I don't know. I didn't want to charge the population because I wanted the question answered, and I thought I could answer it myself with some research, but I was taken back by being told there would be an additional cost to get my request answered. So if anybody could answer that, I'd appreciate it.
Go ahead, Mr. Andrzejczyk.
Thank you, Councilman Getzey. And I do remember the exchange. You had asked for the solicitor to give an opinion on whether or not, when a right to know comes in, whether you would be privy to that. And there were some email exchanges, and I had shared the thought that it's too bad that we're going to have to spend money to answer a question that I think a lot of people already knew the answer to, which yes, when a right to know is received, it becomes a public record just like any other. So a person on council or even a member of the public could ask to see that. Our solicitor charges us a retainer fee, and as part of that, and I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm wrong, as part of that retainer fee, he's expected to attend our council meetings and to give basic advice. But whenever we ask for a legal opinion, which is a written opinion that requires legal research, there's a fee on top of that. So my intention wasn't to discourage you from asking questions. Certainly, it was just to note that that was going to be an avoidable expense. That I don't know whether it really required a legal opinion, because as I had said, all documents are presumed to be open records and public unless they're exempted, including a right to know request itself. The actual request that comes in becomes then a public record. So the answer is yes, it is a public record unless it's exempt. And you and I did have a meeting about that, and some of the concerns I thought were taken care of that you may have had.
Yes, I agree, and I think we came to an amicable settlement when we had our meeting about that, and I am not going to pursue that issue. But my question is, if a member of council says, I would like a legal opinion on some issue, do we have to pay extra to get that opinion from our council? Is that over and above his retainer fee?
So may I answer?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
So Jim, the municipality pays a very nominal retainer a month, which basically covers our attendance at regular meetings and telephone calls with the municipal manager. I've never ever charged the municipality, had any council member or the mayor call our office to ask us general information questions. But our day-to-day work, when we're asked to do work, that's not covered by the retainer, which is, as I said, a nominal amount to secure our appearance at the meetings. The day-to-day work, anytime that we're asked to perform a legal service, which takes some substantive time and would require some research, is done on an hourly basis. And our hourly rate, the Penn Hills municipal rate, is again a reduced municipal rate than if you walked in off the street. But anytime that we're required to do work, whether it be Jim Gefsky or Frank Bacora, Deputy Mayor Sapp, the mayor, John Petrucci, that would be on the hourly rate. We do have communities where we work on a flat fee, where everything's done on a flat fee. And we could certainly discuss that with the municipality. But I can tell you this, Jim, if you have any questions, you can give me a call. And if it's just telephone talk and we can figure it out in a matter of, minutes or something, that is never charged to the municipality, ever.
Okay, well, I was just surprised that I couldn't, get an opinion of council on an issue that affected me and the public. And I think it's a good thing to know that that's how the operation works. I was surprised. We resolved the issue. The manager and I resolved the issue amicably. But to be told that it's going to cost the municipality for me to ask this question and get it answered. And the other thing was, I had no idea what that cost was going to be, $100 or $1,000. So I hope we can come to some kind of conclusion on this issue of getting a legal opinion on public matters.
Jim, again, I can tell you this. I was unaware that the reason that you pulled your request because you were concerned about the cost of the municipality. Had you just called me on the telephone, we probably could have resolved it within the few moments that we talked on the telephone, because it's a fairly straightforward answer.
Which is there's an additional fee for getting a legal opinion. That's the answer, right?
Right. As I indicated, I've never charged any member of council to just talk on the telephone for anything.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but
I think rightly so. That's a technical term to get a legal opinion. And as the solicitor said, if you just make a phone call or ask a question, that's one thing. But when you're asking for a technical legal opinion, it's more than just time, it's expertise.
And I agree with that. But this was a public meeting in which I asked a question and was not given an answer. And I took the course I thought was best. And I don't know that anybody knew the answer to this question until I raised it. And if they did, then now I do too. Thank you.
Any further items for consideration? I would like to point out that we sent out an RFP, a request for proposal for the McKinley Center. To date, we have had 0. I believe the deadline is in about 2 weeks or so. So I think it's just inevitable. We're going to have to extend that if we intend to have requests. We're not getting anything. And I think we might have to publish better. So as I understand it, we don't need to take a vote on that, but I just want to point out for the record that we said that the RFPs were due by November 6th. We have none. I think we needed to extend that. Am I correct in saying we don't need to vote on that?
I mean, you do not. I mean, if it's the prerogative of mayor and council to extend it, I mean, we can extend it as long as we like. I would suggest, given the holidays and whatnot, people do get busy. I would think maybe extend it to maybe the end of the year.
I would agree, Mayor and Scott. I think that's a great suggestion.
Thank you. Any reports?
Yes, I have some. I'd like to start with about, let's see, 9/28 of 20, I met with Senator Jim Brewster. He was doing a meeting, and he just pointed something out I'd like the public to know. The budget for the state is about 36 billion with a B. And he was telling us that there are 4 billion with a B short. So that leaves 32 billion. And he was talking about, well, what are they going to do to subsidize this 4 billion? And some of the ideas were, well, we could borrow the 4 billion. Recreational pot was another one. He claims it only brings in $500,000 in revenue. Marcellus Shale, they're going to increase it from 2% to 5% increase on the revenue. And something that has to do with the BGT, which are poker machines, flood the market with poker machines. They're also looking at maybe a TAN, tax anticipation loan for 2021. What they're saying is the state's in bad shape. Don't expect anything earth shaking from them, grant wise or anything else, because they're really short on money. He did say, though, something positive about the fire departments. There's 24 bills sitting waiting for the fire departments. A lot of it has to do with the fireworks generated $7 million in revenue, and they want to disperse the funds in some way. FEMA is drying up, so hopefully we don't get hit with any type of disaster, because the money for FEMA is drying up. So that was Senator Brewster. I want to give an attaboy to Tammy, who is our new janitor up at the municipal building. I heard she's doing a wonderful job. Tammy Moranti, I believe is her last name. And I want to tell her thank you for all the hard work she's putting in. The place never looked better. Our police department has done a wonderful job. I looked at their report this month, and I don't know if anybody else noticed it. Those guys are really kicking butt, man. I tell you what, they took 6 pistols and 1 rifle off the streets that was illegal, and they secured a lot of heroin, marijuana, and seized a lot of drugs in last month. Again, I can't thank them enough. They're doing a wonderful job. Keep up the good work, guys. And you probably saved a bunch of lives with what you just did. Saturday, October 24th, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., Penn Hills Community Park. We're having a Halloween drive boo parade and movie in the park, which is going to be a drive-through Halloween, where you drive through and we'll have candy. The Rotary will have that candy in bags and be helping handing it out at the end, and they'll hand everybody a goodie bag while they sit in the car. Also, we're going to have a drive-through flu shots. That's Penn Hills EMS is sponsoring that at 102 Duff Road, Sunday, November 8th, 2020, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Insurance cards are necessary. So that's, again, it's Sunday, November 8th, 2020. Go get your flu shot. And then last but least is the Penn Hills Holiday Light Cruise. That's going to be on December 3rd. Mark your calendar for that. Between 7 and 9, and that's another drive-through where the Rotary will be giving out little bags again at the end, and Santa Claus will be waving. So those are a couple events you might want to mark your calendars for. And I think that's about it. Oh, the Rotary Club did a wonderful job too up on Frankstown Road. They had a barbecue in Gross's Funeral Home, and they did fantastic and ran out of food by 2:30. So they made quite a few meals. 500 meals that went out, and the money proceeds will benefit a scholarship fund for children in Penn Hills. So with that, I'm done. Thank you.
Mayor Calabrese?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Sapp.
I'd like to just elaborate a little bit on that health and safety part. So what Councilman Patrucci said is correct. Sunday, November 11th, we are doing a drive-by flu shot. So if you are in need of a flu shot, please, please, please come on Sunday, November 8th, between the hours of 1 and 5 p.m. You will, again, need your insurance card. However, if you don't have insurance, there will be we can distribute some flu shots for free. I'm not quite sure how many we can distribute for free, but there are some available. So I would suggest that you call our business manager, Scott Andrejak, and he could give you further information on that. So again, if you're in need of your flu shot and you can't get to your primary doctor, please come up to 102 Duff Road on Sunday, November 8th, between the hours of 1 and 5 to get your flu shot. Don't forget your insurance card. And again, we do have some that we can give away for free, but I don't know how many. So thank you so much. Everybody stay safe. Don't forget to social distance, wash your hands, sanitize, and wear your mask.
Thank you. Any further reports? I would like to point out also, as far as the report from the police department, it is really wonderful to see that whenever the reports come in, most of the arrests are of non-residents. So these are non-resident, non-Penn Hill residents. I'd also like to point out that in these beautiful fall days, we've had so many wonderful things happen. I know that my own civic association, we did a litter cleanup on various parts. We broke up. Some of us were on Salzburg Road, some on Lime Hollow, and then the CDC. And I'd like to give a shout out to Mr. James Beck, who is here, and he did a great job along with other volunteers. We were on Rhode Road, and the Shade Tree Commission did a front yard project, and pretty wonderful to see the work that they're doing. And I talked with members of the CDC, members of the Shade Commission, and although the state has a long-term plan for Rhode Road, which includes big things like turning lanes, I would love to try to do something in the immediate future to try to beautify Rhode Road. We have a lot of different ideas that are floating, but that's one of the things that I would like to see, because that is the gateway, the entrance to our home. So it's very exciting to see so many people out there in our community. We have such a vibrant municipality and so many dedicated volunteers that when we start to do things like the food truck program, for example, it was awesome that Rotary started the barbecue at noon, and I thought that was something that was just going to last for hours on end, and it was a sellout. And those are the types of things that bring people into Penn Hills to see who we are. These were people from outside the community who came in. So I would love to continue to do those sorts of things to bring people in to see who we really are. And as they're coming in, I would love to have them come into beautiful entrances. And also our residents should be surrounded by beauty. It's good for children to grow up in an area that's beautified. So I thank you so much to all the people that we have, all the volunteers. And I just think we are moving in a fantastic direction. I thank you, and having said that, may I get a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a
Eric,
motion.
the motion to adjourn this meeting.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Sapp. The meeting is adjourned.
God bless Penn Hills. Have a good week.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.